your career or what God has called you to do in this season.
Hi, my name is Joyce George, and in this season of my life,
Hi, my name is Joyce George, and in this season of my life, I am a full-time mom to our 3 children, and I'm homeschooling them.
Hi, my name is Ann Chaco, and I am an accountant at a faith-based organization here in Dallas. I'm also married to Sam, who is a pastor here locally at our church in Richardson.
Hi, I'm Shiva Abraham, and I'm a senior manager for CVS Health, mom of 3, wife of 1.
Hi, my name is Anisha, and I'm a pastor of Zion Assembly, and I'm married to Pastor Justin Zafu.
Hi, my name is Jane Abraham, and I'm a family medicine physician and wife of 1 as well.
All right, we're just going to jump right into the questions so we don't waste any time, okay? Sorry for covering the beautiful ladies. I'll go with this first one. What do you do if you feel like you have nothing to really offer, talents, gifts, and etc.? Think and change. Would you like to take this one?
sure.
Yes. What do you do if you feel like you have nothing to really offer, talents, gifts, etc.?
I think each and every one of us is called to do something. I think there is nothing unspecial about us. We're all very unique, very distinctly created by the Lord, and each of us have some form of talent that either we have identified or have yet to seek out. It could be making amazing recipes for your family or your church and serving them when they need it the most. I have a friend who actually shares her homemade cooking live to her fellow sisters, and it's phenomenal. I learn a lot from that. It could be as simple as sewing or managing 100 people or being a pastor to a church. It could be so many different talents. I think each and every one of us have created extremely uniquely and have special giftings in everything you do. And I have one of the most boring jobs in the world. Crunching numbers, doing the math, working on Excel spreadsheets. It cannot get any mundane than that. But I love it because when I get a hug from a missionary that's traveled all the way from Kazakhstan for 32 hours, and they give me a big hug and say thank you with joyful tears in their eyes, it's so gratifying. So yes, I would say that each and every one of us have some form of talent that we are good at.
Anyone else want to add to that?
I was just going to say that, I get it if you feel like you look around you and it seems as if everyone around you is good at something and you just can't seem to come up with one darn thing that makes you unique or distinct. And the only way to truly find that out is by praying. I mean, that's just it at the end of the day. Because your Creator, the one who made you, knows exactly what He made you for. So when you seek His face and you're just raw and honest with Him, the way I had shared a few minutes ago, where I literally said, "You're done with me, you have nothing for me to do." Like I said, He so sweetly and so beautifully met me in my brokenness and told me exactly what I was purposed to do in this present season. And likewise, when you're just that real and that honest with God, saying you want to serve Him, you'll yield to whatever it is that He's asking you to do, friends, He will clearly tell you how you can use the gifts that He's uniquely given to you and how to bring glory to Him through doing so.
That's good. Thank you, guys. This is a good one. How can a woman grow in her love for the Lord?
I guess in my own experience, I think it's taking the time to spend with the Lord. I think it's easy to look around and see everybody else, and they look like they're just, worshiping and so, full of joy and they're content and everything's perfect. But I think the only way to have that contentment is to, forget about social media, forget about friends, forget about your family for just a second, and take the time to spend it with God, to read your Bible, and pray. Because that's the only way that you can get to know the Lord better, is to spend time with Him. So, anyone else?
I'll add to that. Sorry. Okay, so I think a lot of us, most of us here, I think, are born and raised in church or in a Christian family. So for me, I grew up in a Catholic church or a Catholic home, and I accepted the Lord when I was 14. So I know what it's like to be outside and to know and experience the love of God. And so I hear this from my youth group all the time. They're like, I wish I was not born in a Christian family. But you can't do anything about it right now. The only way to, thinking about it from their perspective, the only way to grow in the Lord and kind of figure out this love for the Lord personally is to have many goals for yourself. To say, not learn how to play the guitar or any skill like that, but just say, God, I want my flesh man to die and the spirit man to grow stronger. But what does that look like? God, help me stay away from social media for a week. Help me do this. Even though your flesh and your mind wants you to do that, your friends want you to do that, you need to try and say, God, what is it that you want me to do? How can I grow with you through the reading of the Word? And as a pastor sometimes, or as a mom, I get busy too, and sometimes I've read everything in the Bible, so I'm just like, okay, everything's old. How do I get this message to be new? And so this year, a few months ago, I took up a new version of the Bible, which I don't like ESV as much, but then once I started reading the ESV, I felt like everything was pretty new. And I go crazy highlighting and writing notes everywhere, and I've been reading another book along with that, because sometimes the messages that you hear is redundant. So you want to hear a fresh perspective, so you need to be intentional about the changes you make and have many goals and try to check off those goals.
All right, next one. How do you know the career you've chosen is the right one for you?
It's kind of interesting. So from my life perspective, I didn't go into what I thought I was going to go into, right? And I think a lot of us make that, or have that issue. We start off with something, there's about 3 different versions later, you're something else, right? My gut feel is, does it make you happy, right? If it makes you happy, and you feel that it's going to, this is what I tell my kids too, so I could say it in that aspect. Jonathan, Jocelyn, do what you think that's going to be happy, that's going to make you happy, that's going to make you flourish, want to make you get out of bed every morning and go out and do that, right? But also think about this, right? You're not just going to be solo all the time. You're going to have a family, you're going to have a husband or a wife, you're going to have children. So does that career that you're going into, will it be able to support your happiness and also what we need secularly, which is, to be able to maintain a household? And if it fits, then that's where you need to be. It doesn't have to be a doctor, it doesn't have to be an engineer, but do you love doing it, and can you support your family off of it? Think of it that way when you're approaching a career.
Okay. All right, for the older generation, how can you open their eyes and hearts more for women to be involved in ministry?
I am extremely blessed to be the daughter of a very prayerful woman. My mom is sitting here, and her tears have been my blessing throughout my entire life. I think to our older generation, as moms, as older sisters, I think those tears and those prayers are extremely valuable. So pray for your younger daughters, younger sisters. We need it, especially this day and age where there's so many choices. I think for me, growing up in a very conservative home, your path is kind of laid out for you. You pick your medical degree or your engineering degree, and this is what you have to do. You get married at the age of 20 to 23. This is where you'll be, and so everything is laid out. But nowadays, there's so many different options. There's 10 million different career options. You may choose to get married if you want to, or if the right person doesn't come along, maybe marriage is not the thing for you. And so it's just so many different choices and ideologies that inundate our daily lives. I think for us younger generation, prayer is one thing that we can clearly see through, and that can be used as a revealing fact in our life, and that helped me. That still helps me. I value every woman, man that prays for me, and I see that evidently in my life on a consistent basis.
If I could just add to that, I think two things that come to mind that regardless of your age, if you feel led to be able to have life, do life and have community with the women around you, that is going to be one of the greatest blessings for you no matter how old you are or how young you are. I remember growing up, I would see how we would have the women's fellowship meetings in our church, and I didn't get it. I was just like, I'm a youth, I'll go to youth meetings, I'm good. And I tell you, as I got older, I fully understood and appreciated being able to be sharpened by other women, by being spoken into by other women, godly women, who were able to dissect the word and help me develop a newer understanding of God's word, women who were able to pray alongside me, women who were willing to pray and believe with me for the desires of my heart. So if that's something that you don't already have in your church, I would encourage that establishing a women's fellowship where women can come together, pray, go through the word together, and encourage each other is definitely something that I think passes all generations. It's something that's beneficial to women of all ages. And the other thing, if you're wondering how can you be useful with your gifts in church, you can be a mentor. And that is something that is completely needed and necessary in the day that we live in today. Because what you have gone through in your life, it doesn't matter how old you are or how young you are, is not a chance or coincidence. There is someone in your path who will benefit from hearing of the experiences that you've walked through in your life, how God has walked with you, how He's helped you, what He's revealed to you, and to really be that Titus 2 woman that we read about, to be able to reach out to the younger women, to encourage them, to mentor them, to steer them in the right direction, I think is a pivotal role that we as women can play in the church.
Yeah, she said it. I mean, the points that I was saying, just one more thing to add is just being open, as an older generation, looking down at the younger ones, the 18, 19, 20, or even younger than that. We have 16-year-olds sitting here. I mean, just be open to know that there's different things that this generation is facing than the things that we were facing back in the day. Like back in the day, having a love marriage was a big issue. Now it's no longer an issue. They're facing a lot more serious things, different things than that. So just be open and be able to support and pray and fellowship with them when needed.
Like to piggyback of that. So I think a lot of us here, being in this society, we shouldn't go in with the understanding that the older generation is against us or against women in ministry. It's just a different perspective, and from my experience, I've seen that they've all accepted me. There's a small percentage of people who kind of don't want to acknowledge me or anything that I do, but 90% of the people who know me and who've seen me and worked with me, they acknowledge and appreciate women in ministry. So whatever that may look in your life, it's going to be different, but you need to believe in yourself. So whether you're in ministry or outside, I think women are very hesitant to applaud themselves and to take that first step, as opposed to men. I feel like men, if you say, okay, why are you successful? Men's going to be like, because I'm cool or I'm awesome. But women are going to be like, no, it's because of prayers. It's because of my husband's support. You want to give credit to something else. But we need to believe in ourselves, and we need to take our A game, whether it's in your workplace or whether it's in ministry, and know that God has a calling for you, and know that God has made you special. And the older generation will appreciate that, because most of them are your parents and your uncles, and they all love us and they want to appreciate us. So just work with them. Don't be rebellious, but just work with them and just stay with what God has called you to do.
So like practically, so let's just say like there's a scenario where, girls in maybe a small church, it's like you don't have like an influx of, older women or a lot of women in the church, but you're just called a woman, so you're meant to just sit there. What kind of advice can you give a young woman that's dealing with that, where she feels very alone?
So, I grew up in small churches throughout my life. In New York, we were a small church. Came here. The first church we went to was a very small church, all Indian churches. One of the things that I've learned along the way is never hold your tongue, speak your mind, right? So every time that I would enter a new church, I would have a conversation. My husband first, just to practice, make sure I say it right. I would have some sort of conversation with the pastor, because I wanted the pastor to know that there's visions and things that I would love to do, and I wanted to share that vision or share that thought process with the leaders of the church. And if they believed that something could come out of that, then give me an opportunity to do so. So I think if we sit back and just say that, oh, it is a small church, there's not very many women or there's not very many youth, then things won't get done. If you feel led to do something, then you should be upfront with it and be able to accomplish that through your communication.
I grew up in a small church too, and there weren't a lot of women in ministry at the church that I went to, but then I took every opportunity as a teenage girl for testimony time, even if it's small things, little things, whatever it was, I was up there and I was testifying. I was very open about my prayer life. I prayed to everybody, whether it's an uncle or auntie, I prayed to everybody. I was very open about what God has, and I would speak into their life. And so they started seeing, okay, this girl, there's something in her. So that's because you need to take a bold step. So if you have young girls in your church who want to talk to them, listen to them, say, okay, where do you want to help out? What's your strength? What's your talent? How can I use this? Whether it's a boy or a girl, it doesn't matter. Everybody here is talented. So if you have a vision to start a mentoring group, let them start that. If they want to do sign language group or do something, let them take initiative and encourage them to do so, because they're going to go off to college and they're going to grow there as well. But we need to start growing them here in a small church when they're teenagers.
So really start the conversation and really like that. Oh, you have the voice. That's really good. How can we encourage other women around us? We see a lot of jealousy, a lot of bitterness, whether it be in the career, whether it be in ministry, or whether, we compare. How can we get past that? Because Satan is really good about highlighting that within us.
Well, to that I would say, the first thing always, it starts with us. So if we recognize that we're harboring these negative feelings towards our sisters, it comes down to having a come to Jesus meeting and asking the Lord to really help with our own self-examination. That rather than us focusing on the girls around us and the fact that they're all a bag of chips. Well, Lord, start with me. What areas in me need to be removed? What areas in me do not bring glory to you? What thoughts am I struggling with that simply are not lining up with your thoughts? Excuse me, I'm so sorry. And so I think once we are open to have that conversation with God, He is so faithful to open our eyes and to open our ears and to soften our hearts so that we can clearly grab a hold of, well, that's not going to work, and that doesn't bring glory to God, and that's not going to help me in my relationship with so-and-so. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is when we do see the sisters around us, you know what? The truth is, even after we've had the self-examination, we're still human, and our flesh is still going to try to get the best of us. And sometimes you just have to walk your way through those feelings, even if you're not really feeling it at the moment. So if your sister has just finished speaking and in your head you're like, well, you know, maybe I could have done a better job, and you're dealing with, okay, God, something is clearly not right in my head, you know, you just walk your way through it and say, hey, you know what, Sister Susie, you did great today. And maybe at the very moment you're struggling in your mind, but by putting those words out there, those words of life out into existence that cannot return void, well, you know what? Right then and there, those thoughts that were busy swirling around your head don't even stand a chance to continue growing a life of its own.
I mean, it's something that every single woman deals with. You are not the only one who's ever been jealous, who's ever thought that, you know, you could do a better job, or, you know, that girl's so much prettier, that girl's dress is so much nicer than mine, you know, et cetera, et cetera. It's just important to acknowledge that that is sin in your life, that is not, you know, life-giving, and then bringing it before God and saying, you know, this is something that I'm struggling with, and I mean, I've been through it too, and it's something that God can take care of. You know, there's nothing that God can't do, right? So if you believe that and if you acknowledge it, you put it out to the open and you say it out loud and say, hey, I'm struggling with this particular sin. God can take that away from you. So.
Okay, well, those are all our questions. We can open it up to the floor. Does anybody have any questions that you guys have in regarding career or, you know, being a full-time mom or being in the ministry, being a physician? Anybody have any questions? Okay, well, I'll have a question. How do you guys deal with disappointment? So, you know, whether that, you know, maybe some, like you were saying, when you were praying for, you know, a healing and you don't see it come through. And I saw that you taught your children in that, but there's so many disappointments that come in our life. And so, you know, what is your first step when you feel those feelings of disappointment?
So, my first disappointment that hit me, I mean, there was a lot of disappointments, but one that I took very personally was when I was denied a job position in the company that I love, apparently CVS Health, right? So I was turned down because I wasn't a pharmacist. But it was a position to lead people, but I was turned down because I didn't have a specific skill, not that it required it, but it was a preferred. But so this is me dealing with, while I'm growing here, I'm in the midst of trying to understand, you know, where my path is. I want to, you know, continue to grow within the company, grow within my career. How do I get this disappointment after prepping for it for so long? I've done some, jobs where you're, you know, subbing in for a little bit as a manager. So just to give me the experience, I've done all the little things that I thought that I should be doing to be able to land this job at one point, right? when I was told this, I walked right outside the door and took a very long walk. I took a very long walk and I cried. I let it out and I just said, so you didn't get it. That's okay. You didn't get it. I said, God, why? Why didn't you give it to me? I prepped for this. I prayed for this. I practiced for this. Why didn't I get it? And after I've done this mile walk, there's a line mile walk outside of our building. I did this mile walk like 3 times, So to be even presentable to come back into the building. And while I was doing the mile walk, it started teaching me about a journey that I'm making. And that journey is through the experiences that I was going to get. And I think you hit it on it saying earlier today is the negatives in your life teach you that, and it keeps you humble to a point to say that not everything is going to be given at that spot that you were requesting for. It makes you humble and it makes you work twice as harder for it, and it tastes so much sweeter when you receive it after you've been taught that lesson.
And I was just going to say, so I don't deal with disappointment well, whether it's been with career, family, health. My go-to is I just need to burst into tears. And if I could, I'd crawl under the covers and have a pity party for as long as possible. But it's a little hard to do as an adult, isn't it? So my go-to in recent years that God has really shown me is to go straight to His Word. And so I had to purpose in my mind and my heart that when disappointment came, that the words that were going to come out of my mouth was, you give and you take away, but blessed be your name. I will choose to bless your name no matter what the outcome is.
I'd like to add to that. So the first time I was really disappointed was when I went to a church and the pastor, we had talked about it, my husband and I talked about it, and he wanted me to translate. And I think I'm a pretty decent translator from Malayalam to English. And so as soon as I walked in, he realized that I was a woman and he wanted me to translate. And so just based on my gender, but he was okay with my husband translating, but we both had the same degree. We both had the same calling. We both know and will do the exact same thing, but he just didn't want me to translate because I was a woman. So I kind of felt bad about it, but I was kind of hurt, but just didn't let it bother me. But another time it happened where something similar happened where I walked into a church and they didn't want to accept me or accept my ministry, and they said, oh, we're going to let you speak for maybe like 5 minutes. Just because you're a woman, and so like they have to tell me the reason why they're not, they can't be like, oh, because of time constraint, we can't let you. But when they tell me it's because you're a woman, we're not going to let you do this, it's like limiting what God has for the church. Maybe God has something else to tell the church besides my husband. I think God speaks to both people, and both of them can be the voice of God. And so that day, I don't know what was going on, but I took it kind of personally. I had to just kind of leave. I went to the car and just like started crying. And I couldn't recover for the rest of the service. I just like sat out. And my husband came and he joined me, and he was like, I believe in you. And your parents believe in you. My parents believe in you. Our church believes in you. So there are voices and there are people who are there to bring negativism into your life. And there's going to be disappointments and failures that's going to happen. You need to know who your inner circle is. You need to surround yourself with the people who support you. And you need to know, okay, that happened, but I'm not going to let that affect my happiness, right? I'm not going to let that one incident affect the calling and the great things that God has for my life because one person told me I couldn't do it. So because of that one person, I don't want to shrug off this great purpose and plan. So you kind of just have to intentionally say, God, I'm not going to just take that away from my mind. And you need to surround yourself with people who are going to speak life and positivity.
One thing, great suggestions by these sisters. I would say find a friend. In disappointments, just find someone that you can really talk to, be honest about your feelings, Because an idle mind is the devil's workshop. We all know, and we have all those crazy thoughts going up in our head. We want to retaliate. We want to, say things we don't mean, and we would regret at a later point. So find someone. It could be a spouse. It could be your sister, your mom, your best friend. But someone who doesn't mind you yelling at them if you need to. But just someone who can walk you through that, just like Anisha had said, walk you through that circumstance, and then just say, you know what, God has something better for you. These disappointments, they're temporary, because what you want right now is probably not the thing that you should have, or probably just not right for you. It just looks appealing at this moment, but there's something bigger, there's something better, because He is seeing the bigger picture, and we're just looking at that tiny dot that's in our faces. So find that friend, and it will really help you go through the moment that you're going through.
This might sound a little contrary, but I think for me, especially the loss and failure in my life, now is a reason to celebrate and to look back, and I am so thankful for the times and for those experiences that God allowed me to go through, because it drew me nearer to Him, and it taught me so many different things that now I can implement in my career and in my relationships. And so, God uses failure and God uses loss to teach you some really, really important lessons. And so, totally agree. I think, grieving is so important, finding a support system is so important, but also, spend some time to think about what God is doing in that circumstance for you, and why you're going through that, and what reason God may have had in allowing you to go through that season in your life. And I guarantee you, every single time there is a purpose in that experience in that season.
Thank you, you guys. This was great answers, right? And great women of God. Can we give them a hand? Wow, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and being vulnerable. I know that's not very easy, and but I thank you for letting us just have a glimpse of what your journey looks like.